Okay, so here we go. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. I'm not set up to do videos yet, and don't know if I ever will be. But we're gonna experiment with this and see what happens. So a little bit of background. This is the Hasegawa BF109K-4. It's the Advanced Scout version. If you're familiar, Hasegawa put out a bunch of kits called Advanced Scout, and they have extra parts and things like that in them. So it kind of gives you a little background on the kit. All right, now we're ready to get started here. So one of the cool things about the AK pencils is they kind of work like watercolors. So we're going to put a couple of drops of water in this little tin here, and we're going to pick a color, and in this case we're going to pick the black. Actually, it's called smoke. And we're going to get that wet, and we're going to bring us a little towel over here so we can see how that really comes off, kind of like a paintbrush. So we're going to go a little bit right in this corner, right by where this wing slat would be, and we'll just put a little dab here, and we're going to take a Q-tip and we're just going to drag that out just a little bit. Now we're going to work on that entire line right there. You can do this with a wash as well. So it's just whatever you want to do. I guess the camera wanted a closer look. Put a little bit more right here. Drag him out. So with this Q-tip, I'm kind of wiping up the water a little bit, absorbing the water, but then I'm also spreading it just a little bit. So now, just as a comparator, we'll take some of this Tamiya Panel Line, and we'll hit these lines back here. We all know how that works, how it spreads in those panel lines really nice, has that good capillary action. But it too also will run outside the lines, which is not an altogether bad thing. And we can clean that up later with a little mineral spirits. So now we're going to come back in here with our AK pencil. I'm just going to drag that along there. Now smear it a little bit. Now this one, now we're just going in and drawing with it. So you can do that as well. And I'm no expert by any means. This has just been some of my experiments with this. Now, a lot of you guys, you already know this. You've worked in aircraft. I worked in aircraft about 100 years ago, back when I was in the Navy. Worked on P3s, and we tried to take real good care when we greased flap runners, things like that. Landing gear, usually use Molytherm grease, which was a black grease. And if you got too crazy with that grease and you left too much of it out, when that plane took off with the flaps down or when it lowered the flaps, that grease got everywhere. It streaked really bad. So we worked really hard to try to keep the grease down if we could. But that's kind of part of what we're trying to emulate here with these AK pencils and with the panel line wash is dirt that gets collected in the flaps and in the panel lines and then gets smeared around by just the sheer force of the air. As the aircraft's going through the air, it throws this crap that it accumulates everywhere. And so it makes our aircraft dirty. And that's what my wife calls it. She says, "Oh, you made it dirty. I like it when they're clean." So some of the ones that I make, I keep clean for special reasons. Okay, now maybe you can see that guy right there pretty well. It's a nice little smear, and we're gonna add to that a little bit with our panel line wash. So I guess this video is about two different things: panel line wash and a little bit of AK pencil. Okay, so we've got this gray here, and we can work it in here. Kind of move it around in this area here, and maybe that's what that's going to do for us, is make our gray look a little faded in our camo. A little faded, a little worried, a little worked, a little overworked. The guy's been, the German pilots and the British pilots, Soviet pilots, a lot of those pilots, they flew until either the war was over or they died. American pilots, not so much. They flew so many missions. I think it was different for fighter jocks than it was for bomber pilots. They flew so many missions and then they sent them back stateside, make instructor pilots out of them or what have you. And not so much with Luftwaffe pilots. Okay, now hopefully you can see that, how that's really faded that gray there. Oops. A little happy accident, aka Bob Ross. So maybe this has whet your appetite a little bit, make you want to check out some AK pencils. There's some great videos on YouTube, a lot better than this. And but still, get you some familiarization. Get you a check ride with AK. I got you a check ride with AK pencils, and maybe and a little panel line wash. So there you go. And this is Tom, and I'm signing off.